The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Current epidemic stands the concept of a green passport and other measures encouraging the engagement in vaccination were discussed by the Interagency Coordination Council led by Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia. Salome Zurabishvili, President of Georgia, took part in a meeting as well. Council considers the further extension of the vaccination program. Active information campaign and marathon will continue, which involves the outreach visits of mobile teams of healthcare professionals in different regions. Epidemiologists and healthcare professionals once again highlight the significance of avoiding public gatherings.
In January-September 2021, almost 1.2 million international visitors visited Georgia, which is 20% of September 2019 figures, according to the report of TBC Capital. Despite the fact that in September the number of visitors started to decline, recovery relative to 2019 was higher than in August. The main factors of improvement are pent-up demand. In September, the number of international visitors increased by 349% relative to the same period of 2020. Occupancy in large hotels decreased by 22% relative to 2019 and stood at 58%. As for medium and small hotels in September, average occupancy decreased to 42%, standing still far behind its 2019 levels.
Sosop Kakadze, president of Vissel Group, declares that the fuel price in Georgia is much lower than on the international market. As Kakadze explains, it's difficult to make a forecast on fuel prices. Of course, the international market price has an impact on the rise of fuel cost. Georgia is an importer and unfortunately is directly proportional to the increase in prices on the international markets. We try our best not to reflect prices increases fully on our customers, he explained.
Consumer prices in Armenia in October 2021 were up 9.1% compared to October 2020, the National Statistical Committee NSC said. Consumer prices in January-October of this year compared to the same period in 2020 were up 6.9%, it said. ARCA reports. According to the NSC, prices for food and non-alcoholic beverages in October 2021 were up 16% compared to October 2020. Alcohol and tobacco products rose in price by 9.7% from October 2020. The government's projection of inflation rate for 2021 is 4%.
Turkey registered an annual increase of 90.89% in consumers' price in October, as the country's statistical authority announced. The annual inflation rose by 0.31 percentage points a month ago, while the figure was 11.89% in October 2020, the Turkstat said. Last month, the highest annual rise was seen in food and non-alcoholic beverages with 27.4%, hotels, cafes, restaurants with 25.5%, and furnishing and household equipment with 23%.
The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development (EBRD) improved its forecast for Russia's GDP growth in 2021 from 3.3% to 4.3%, according to the report. The forecast is subject to a number of risks, both to the upside and the downside, not least geopolitical tensions, notably the risk of further sanctions and volatility in oil and gas prices and demand, the report said. What about inflation in Russia? It hits a 5-year high of 7.4% in September 2021.
You are watching The Checkpoint with Elena Kvanchilashvili and myself, I'm David Jalagoni, and we are here to tell you more on business and economics.
10 p.m. sharp and we're ready to start. Updated state budget of Georgia is now planned with a 10% economic growth forecast instead of 9.5%. Irakli Kovzanadze, chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, wrote on his official Facebook page. According to Kovzanadze, gross domestic product in nominal terms will reach 65 billion lari. By 2022, the economic growth of forecast is kept at 6%, while the deficit is at 4.4% and the government debt is set within 52.2%, the Post reads. The Budget and Finance Committee will consider the updated 2021 state budget of Georgia next week. Meanwhile, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development has released its report on economic prospects. The international financial institution assesses Georgia's economic situation amid the pandemic. Georgia's economy is expected to grow by 7.5% in 2021, improving its June forecast for economic expansion of 4.5%. The international financial institution predicts GDP growth of 5.5% for 2022. Economic activity in Georgia sharply increased in the second quarter of 2021, posting 29.9% growth year-on-year and bringing GDP above the 2019 level. Cumulative GDP growth in the period January to August was 12% year-on-year, even though tourism, the main driver of growth in recent years, is still far below pre-pandemic levels. Georgia's current account deficit widened during 2021 as the increased exports of foods and remittances only partially balanced out the increased imports of goods and low level of exports of services, especially tourism revenues, the EBRD noted.
Let us then proceed with business. It's been more than 7 years since Arik Group started to develop agriculture business in Georgia. Iranian and Georgian investors have vineyards in Kakheti region along with pistachio, almond and walnut plants. But they have a new challenge for now. This investment group wants to build a fruit processing factory in Sagarejo, and in the very beginning, the local government gave the land for this particular goal, but this area is no longer available for them. Why these plans have changed, we can hear from the investor. This agriculture field belongs to the Arik Group. It's been more than 7 years since they started to develop business in Georgia. Iranian and Georgian investors have vineyards in the Kakheti region, along with pistachio, almond and walnut plants. But they have a new challenge for now. This investment group wants to build a fruit processing factory in Sagarejo. In the very beginning, the local government gave the land for this particular goal to investors, but this area is no longer available for them. Afzal Ravari, the chief of Arik Group, sat down for an interview to explain why these plans have changed.
As soon as we start the action, they say, Mr. Ravari, there is some issues with Sakribolo, and they want that you build there some public facilities. I say, I'm sorry, I am investing in food industry and agriculture, and sport is not my responsibility. Anyway, they take a time to study again, and then they come offered us that in cases we want to receive that area, we have to purchase it and to take an obligations to build 2 sport basketball hall. We say, sorry, we cannot do that. I did receive a call from Association of Rugby. Was very happy. They come and say, Mr. Ravari, our plan is to build their rugby facility, as you know. And I say, okay, we are ready to relocate our facilities, no problem. I mean, it's not. I want just to announce we stopped the project in Sagarejo now. We will not follow for the same location.
Afzal Ravari declares that he is ready to relocate and start building the factory somewhere else and simultaneously apologizes to the people in Zagarejo because he has to give up.
I do apologize for the Zagarejo people. A lot of them, they knows we want to start a project there. We have to give up. So I'm really sorry. We try our best to find the land in Zagarejo and put a facility in Zagarejo. We have enough private land, but it's far from the villages and so manpowers. It's not easy for the manpowers to reach our farm. I have to build again 20-kilometer roads.
Before they find territory for the new investment, they already have enough numbers to tell the checkpoints. Georgi Tabuashvili, one of the shareholders of ARIC Groups, explains that they are going to increase the area of plantations.
The ARIC Group started its investments from 2013, and since that we have already developed around 650 hectares of plantation, including the vineyards, stone fruit, pistachios, walnuts, and almond. During the high seasons, we employ around 150 people per month, and off-season there are around 30 people employed in a company. So for the next years, we plan to increase the area of plantations, so it means that we will hire more people seasonally and off-seasons too.
ARIC Group has already invested more than $60 million in the agriculture sector of Georgia.
We'll be running a new rubric for you, which we have called Open to Investment. We'll be waiting for the active feedback and news from the businesses that seek opportunities and need guidance in this process. Our first story runs exactly along these lines. Our reporter Lika Gurabanidze will tell you more about how owners of Bebnisi Lakes are in search of the investor and raising the money.
The lakes in Bebnisi village of Kareli district are looking for an investor or are up for a sale. Both existing lakes are fed by groundwater. In the 70s of the last century, dams on the lakes and canal leading to the Mtkvari were built, after which two lower and upper lakes were formed. This area was a kind of recreation for the population. In the 90s, fish in the lakes were completely destroyed, which was caused by poaching. Trees were also cut down all around. The lake was polluted and turned into a landfill. The lakes and several plots around it are currently owned by the founders of the company Bebnisi Lake. For years, Bebnisi Lake took care of the restoration and maintenance of this area, and the infrastructure of the lakes was built. In particular, the lakes were dried several times to clear the seabed of the debris. Also, the area around the lakes has been completely rehabilitated and cleaned of garbage. New trees have also been planted. The canals between the lakes and the Mtkvari were fenced and cleared. There are 4 species of the fish in the lakes. Around-the-clock duty was imposed to prevent the trees from being cut down and the illegal extraction of fish from taking place. To do this, watchtowers and buildings were built. The founders of the company planned to develop the infrastructure of the tourist recreation complex in and around these areas, which would be interesting for both the development of local tourism and for attracting foreign tourists. The project envisaged the placement of 12 hotel-type cottages in the pine forest northeast of the lower lake, which would connect the restaurant with light pedestrian paths and a bridge. A tasting cellar and billiards were also to be planned in the restaurant. As for the upper part of the lake, a 12-room hotel complex was planned to be built in the northwest. The building was equipped with access roads to the hotel, parking, pedestrian, and bicycle lanes. A restaurant was to be arranged in the hotel. On both lakes, the project envisages the arrangement of a small platform of light construction for amateur fishermen, given that the lakes have an abundant supply of fish. The owners of Bebnisi Lake are ready to talk to investors and raise funds for the project. According to the founders of the company Bebnisi Lake Ltd, several millions of dollars are needed to arrange the infrastructure. It is through active contact and communication that the owners of Lake Bebnisi are ready to consider the proposals of the business community. The owners of the company believe that in addition to the investment attractiveness, the location is also growing as a tourist destination as the Bebnisi lakes flow into the Zama Gorge. Zama Gorge is a regular place for local and international visitors or tourists. It is also possible to get to Bakuriani by road from Zama Gorge, which makes both the project and the location very attractive.
High dollarization and lack of long lari is often perceived as a challenge for doing business in Georgia by international organizations, especially those who were very vocal in favor of Georgia's pension reform. Georgi Isakadze interviewed Levan Surguladze, former head of pension agency, on current challenges and opportunities facing the most profound reform of our days.
Batan Levan, thank you so much for your time. Well, by the way, I want to share some information with the followers of Forbes and BMG that Levan Surguladze is always presented as a former head of pension fund or system, agency, but nobody is very much aware about your current business status. Where are you? What are you doing? Please update our followers and viewers.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Well, first of all, my association with the pension agency is fine to me because indeed we've done lots of work there, and in fact, I never mind actually to be that way. However, after I left the pension agency a couple of years ago, I returned to my previous position, which is chairman of the supervisory board of the Caucasus Business Group, which is a holding type of company of 10 different companies. We have quite a diversified business portfolio in a sense of these companies because they are working in different industries, and this diversification, in fact, helps us to be balanced in a sense of the risk. Basically, yeah, that's where I am right now.
Good luck to your company and your partners and team. And my question is about your previous position in regards of the pension agency. Inflation, which dramatically reflects nowadays everything, all the directions, it doesn't matter, it's going to be ordinary citizens or investors themselves. You mentioned in one of your interviews about the risks if it's going to be prolongated. I mean, the inflation process itself, and both of us as economists and financists, we do know that at least for the upcoming year, we're going to face a high inflation in Georgia and worldwide, including the region. And you mentioned about some risks about revenues within the pension fund. How could you comment on this, please?
Yes, I fully agree and share your opinion. Indeed, we have a global inflation pressure right now. Inflation is high in many countries, and this is due to the pandemic situation. There are some common factors for all countries, and there are some specific factors for each country. Common factor is a pandemic related, and basically this inflation is demand driven. Because there was problems in the supply chain. As to our country, basically we have import-related inflation, because we have lots of imports, and because prices are high, so are the prices high here. So we have also basically problem related with lari strength, weakness, I would say, and basically also the money supply, this so-called M2 aggregate is also a factor, I would say, and also we have some unexpected jump in economic activity, and that also may may contribute to the inflation, which we have at the level of 12.8% annually.
You're mostly pointing about possible expenditures, which we are not very much aware of yet, but quite soon maybe we're going to be due to some expenditures what the government might have during this period. And the upcoming period is also driven that the inflation is going to remain high till the end of the year.
Yes, I agree. In fact, yes, government expenditure was a factor. Among others, it was related to this pandemic situation, and so basically, indeed, this is a factor, and this is going to continue probably for the year or a little bit more, at least. So this is the current prognosis of the professionals.
But Levan, what are the risks for the patient agency, and in regards of revenues you see or you face, how it's secured, and how come the potential beneficiaries and acting members of the reform should be?
I would say, well, yes. In fact, the current income on the investments, basically, on average, is 11.15% on the portfolio, on the fund portfolio. The fund is fully invested in bank deposits and bank instruments, commercial banks. So there is a pretty high correlation there, which is which they need to actually take some actions to diversify. And yes, currently the yield on the fund is negative, because real yield is should be inflation adjusted, and inflation at 12.8%. So we have negative yield. But I would like to stress, especially from the point of view of each of the beneficiary of this fund, it's not really substantial, because if we take into account when they put the money into the fund, their own money, they immediately get 275%
of the invested amount, yeah.
Return, immediate return on investment, without any risk. So basically, it quadruples their investment, immediately quadruples into the fund. So inflation, it's hard to imagine that how long this inflation should last, how large it should be in order to basically erase this much 275%. So I would not worry about it, and also it is important to understand that this is a long-term investment. This is a long-term fund. So inflation sometimes comes, sometimes go away, and they should not worry too much about it.
I hope it's going to not take so much time as we expected. Thank you so much, Batuhan Levan, and good luck to you. And always pleasure to host you on our show, The Checkpoints. Good luck.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Back to the BRD outlook that we have mentioned in the beginning, David. According to the International Financial Institution, inflationary pressures have been increasing since the beginning of the year, and the rate of inflation reached 12.3% year-on-year in September 2021 on the back of higher international food and oil prices and pass-through of last year's depreciation. The National Bank of Georgia reacted by increasing the refinancing rate 3 times in 2021 2021 by a cumulative 2 percentage points to the 10% in August 2021. On the basis of strong growth in the first 8 months of 2021, the economy is expected to grow by 7.5% in 2021. The gradual return of tourism could support growth prospects in 2022, projected at 5.5% growth. The main risks stem from the slow vaccine uptake, the future path of the pandemic, and possible travel restrictions, as well as increased political volatility, the BRD noted in its report. Earlier, the IMF released its outlook, where Georgia ranks 16th globally and second in South Caucasus region with the highest inflation rate. Both the International Monetary Fund, in our exclusive interview, and the National Bank of Georgia during the Monetary Committee sitting responded to this development. In October 2021, the annual inflation rate in Georgia amounted to 12.8%, which hit a record high for the last 10 years. This is what the Geostat official figures tell us. If we look at the annual core inflation, the prices increased by 6.3%, while the annual core inflation without tobacco amounted to 6.2%. Today, according to the IMF World Economic Outlook, Georgia ranks 16th in the world as per high inflation and second in the South Caucasus region. Here is how Jihad Azur, responsible for CCA region at the IMF, analyzes inflation trend for Georgia. You say that for Georgia in 2021, the inflation will be somewhere around 13%. And then you say that starting from 2022, it will gradually come down to 3.17%, right? What should happen for such say sharp decline?
Well, as you know, inflation is global due to increase in food and commodity prices. We expect after the peak of 2021 that inflation will gradually globally normalize. Of course, this requires from monetary authorities, central banks, to avoid de-anchoring of inflation expectations by maintaining appropriate level of interest rate and, when needed, increase interest rates in order to address the risk of spillover or the risk of de-anchoring of inflation expectations. And this is what the central bank in Georgia and in some other countries in the region have introduced in the last few months. If inflation is to become more challenging, additional measures would be needed.
What do you mean under additional measures?
Well, it depends on the nature of the inflation and the risks of the inflations. Those could be managed on the monetary side through interest rate, as well as also through the normal policy measures that are usually at the disposal of authority.
President of the National Bank, Kobak Venedadze, tells us that high inflation is very bad, but it is impossible to do something that will reduce inflation very soon. Kobak Venedadze urges everyone to take into account those factors that stand behind the leading positions in Georgia's high inflation ranking in the region and globally.
We often hear the remarks that inflation in Georgia is second high in the region and globally it stands number 16 with high inflation rate. But I would urge those who focus their attention on the statistic to also consider that Georgia is dependent on tourism, and because the pandemic has totally restricted mobility, such types of countries have even more aggravated impact on inflation levels. Just to remind you, while in 2019 tourism contributed 12% to the overall GDP in the country, in 2020 this fell to 2%. So the shock for Georgia is a bigger shock compared to many other countries. Let us not forget that in Georgia fiscal deficit that was high in 2020 and it's maintained this year as well. So when we say that the inflation in Georgia is one of the high, yes, it's so, but this has its preconditions.
The annual inflation rate was mainly influenced by price changes for the following groups. Food and non-alcoholic beverages, the prices in the group increased by 18.4%. Transport, the prices increased by 19.6%. Housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, the prices for the group posted an increase of 11.9%. And health, the prices went up by 8.4%. All these groups have the biggest share in the out-of-pocket payments of Georgian citizens. So while Georgia, according to the IMF World Economic Outlook again, ranks 106th globally on GDP per capita, even the smallest increase in these prices affects household incomes negatively, not to say anything about the record-breaking inflation that Georgia hasn't seen in a decade.
Kartuli Supra tablecloths is a place of art, and there is a business behind making this art flourish not only for foreign tourists but for Georgian citizens as well. Here are the steps towards growth of once a small family business to a big and successful production made in Georgia in the checkpoints.
I am Georgi Alania, the founder of the company Old Supra. Our company offers customers traditional Georgian home accessories, including tablecloths, aprons, blankets, and many more. Now we're working on creating dishes. Our goal is to make the product we create based on the motifs of Georgian ornaments. Therefore, we look for these ornaments in wall paintings, manuscripts, and etc., and trying to revive this culturally rich discovered material in various home accessories. Our initial goal was to restore the Georgian traditional blue tablecloth. It was the first inspiration which we started from. From the very beginning, we were a family business. We rebranded the company in 2020. We decided to expand our working profile while maintaining the original blue tablecloth line. We continued to work in this direction, which includes two processes. On the one hand, identical restoration of the material that exists in books and museums, and on the other hand, creating similar patterns with the same motive. Our choice to commit to Georgian ornaments and create modern types of designs that the Georgian market lacked has proven to be successful, since it is the precise uniqueness that sets us apart from the other similar types of products. At first, our products were handmade, which was quite a difficult process to go through with low productivity. One of the reasons for the rebranding was to increase productivity because the market was already demanding that we produce more in a very short time. At this stage, our team consists of 30 people. This team includes both designers and marketers. At this stage, we're operating in several directions. We have several stores, one in Saburtalo City Mall, the other one will soon open in Javjavadze Axis Tower. In addition, we have online sales so that the customer can buy the desired product without leaving their home. In addition to the Georgian market, we're now actively working on the placement of products on Amazon. Soon, both our immigrants and people in the international market will be able to buy Georgian products. As for the price range, given that we have a fairly high-quality product, we work on natural fabric, we still try to choose a pricing policy that many people can afford. As for the pace of our development, I think the brand has developed quite rapidly over the last year. We're already in several stores, and we're going to continue working in this direction to make the Old Supra exist in as many areas as possible.
Before we say goodbye for next Sunday, we would like to introduce you to Nicolas Peradze. Since 2004, Nicolas Peradze has worked in the Scientific Research Center of Istituto Europeo di Oncologia Milan, and in 2005 he was awarded a master's degree by the University of Milan in breast cancer science. In 2009 he received the Floriana Adinolfi Diomeli Award for Young Doctors for his contribution to the fight against breast cancer. He is a member of the European School of Oncology and an author and co-author of many scientific papers and studies. Nicolas Peradze is also known as one of the founders and pioneers of the robotic surgery project of mammary gland. Georgi Sakadze interviewed Nicolas Peradze for the Checkpoints.
Thank you so much for visiting Forbes Studio, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this interview. So.
Yeah, pleasure is all ours. Could you be so kind to brief us about the purpose of your visit?
Yes, sure. So the purpose is, first of all, I was invited by the Todua Institute here in Tbilisi. So the purpose is to share the experience and knowledge that was gained during the years and work in the European Institute of Oncology, sharing experience of the innovations in the medicine and in oncology also, and to give this message to the doctors, to the colleagues, to improve, to go further with the scientific education, and to go further for the benefit of the patient, of course.
And at the same time, it's your already the second visit during last 3 months,
yes.
Which means that there is a potential of some sort of cooperation in the future. Let's see, but can we talk about it?
Yes, sure. I hope so. This is also the idea, the collaboration, further collaboration exactly for this purpose. And I hope so, it will be like this, but we will see. Anyway, both of these visits are very successful, and we are very happy, as we had a very important feedback from the colleagues. We had a conference and we had talks, and so we are very happy.
And also, I hope with future doctors and professionals, are they attended on all those activities
Excellent.
You are covering in Georgia?
Yes, exactly. They were always with me and sharing and looking what we are doing. So it was very, very, very important.
If we can measure enthusiasm of young future Georgian professionals, yes. How do you see, and how can you measure the
I would say it was
the interest is huge.
It's huge, and it was excellent. I saw the colleagues interested in knowing the innovations and understand how are things going on. So excellent, I would say excellent.
Nika, on this stage, on this particular trip, you're accompanied by your partner from
yes.
Milano Institute, and she's covering surgery, plastic surgery
Plastic
direction.
surgery, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, because this is very important as we working as a team, the multidisciplinary team, and this multidisciplinary approach to the patient is very, very important. So the demolitive surgery will be covered after that, reconstructed by the plastic surgeon. So this is very important for the patient as for his psychological status and psychological well-being. Because of the demolitive surgery, it needs to be recovered, it needs to be reconstructed. So the plastic surgeon role is huge and important.
As a senior specialist of Milano Institute, can we say that there is still opportunity from your institute for future Georgian professionals, surgeries who are willing to be qualified in the field of immunology? Is it the same opportunity what you faced 18 years ago while first time visiting this institute?
I would say yes, because our doors
times are different. It's a bit simplified so far.
Exactly, and anyway, the doors are open, so everybody of the professionals are welcome to visit us and to see, and we are happy to share what we have, and we will happy to give this knowledge and experience we have. So
to study and qualify.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Well, that's all for today. We will see you next Sunday, 10 p.m. with more news and analysis on business and economics.
We'll be leaving you off with Guillaume Moulard's interesting feature. Enjoy, and remember to check us out regularly on bm.g and forbes.g till Sunday.
Moge Salmebit. We often say that a crisis like the one we are living now with this pandemic can be a good opportunity to develop new projects, to come out of our comfort zone and to innovate. It's especially the case in Georgia, an emerging market. I will show you two brands which have been created during COVID time really recently, not a long time ago. The first one is a design brand implemented by two Georgian sisters. The other one is a fine shop and dining concept located in Vake on Abashidze Street. The chef is not Georgian, but French. Follow me.
I got the idea of the brand, of the making of the brand from my childhood, because I decided to be a designer in the very beginning of my life. I was 6 years old. So I was studying for many years. When I came back from France, I was studying there. My sister, she suggested me to help me. So we started to make a brand. And it was like 1 year after that I came. So we started it in the COVID situation. It was first wave of the COVID, and it was really hard for us to, for example, find the material and to work with the person, because you could not talk with people. It was like home lockdown and everything. So it was really hard from the start, but little by little we are learning, we are making updates in our work, and here we are. Yeah, it was really a good opportunity, because we thought to open an online shop right in the start, and it's good because we already have the website with online payment methods and everything, so it's like more easier for our customers to buy. And also we have delivery system with the post, which is like most easier, because they don't have to think like when it's gonna deliver or how it's gonna deliver. So it's like the same structure that you're buying, and it's delivered by itself, like it's automatical. In the making of the brand, me and my sister, we were thinking about to make something which is exception, which is unique, which is not sold everywhere. So we started to use more, more quality materials, Italian fabrics. There is not big amount of it, so we made little amounts, for example, one piece only, to be soldable, and we were making the exclusive content. Like, for example, every collection has a backstory that we are making, and that's what is making Astrid more, different. For example, now we are buying the textile here in Georgia. There is some shops, two shops only, which is coming from Italy, the textile. But we were planning to go and buy, but as COVID is here, we could not move a lot as we were thinking to move. We were thinking about exporting. However, first of all, we want to get the Georgian market. We want to get our races here, and then expand and go after export. It's a big opportunity to start thinking about what will be better for you, and it's good time to become better one and to know what is really necessity of the market. So it's making you realize what's more soldable for the moment in the COVID times, because the high fashion and those luxury brands, they was not soldable as was, for example, sportswear or pajamas, anything like that. Actually, in the beginning of the business, you don't have to have really big expectations. It's how it is. It doesn't matter it's a COVID or it's not a COVID. Like, you need at least 3 years to see what's the production, how you're doing it. You're learning by doing everything. So it's really not the critical moment for you to not have customers on the day one when you're launching. It's okay, because time goes by and you are learning, and you know how to talk with your customer, you know how to make communication with them. So little by little we are learning, and we are going up like this. I tried to hire a person, but I didn't like that much like whatever they've done, because I wanted like something more. It's not for the brand, the marketing is not the same. For example, if you're selling something else, for the brand it's different marketing. So I didn't like the way it was gone, so I cut it and I'm doing by myself and my sister. So it's better this way because I like this way. So yes, we are doing much work together because it's many stuff. So it's not bad. I'm learning many things, so I'll be like knowing everything about the business even more.
Malongo at the base, it's only coffee makers, and the concept that has been created here is a unique concept. It's to say the concept of pastry, cuisine, French corner, it does not exist anywhere else. It is the first one that was created for development, and at the start, the Malongo parent company did not quite agree on the principle, and then afterwards they said, why not? And so they said, Banco, let's go. There was this restaurant spirit that emerged since Malongo that they do in France. It's above all that they involve their pastry chefs who are around, who they put on display and who sell their products like that. They didn't have this concept of pastry chefs directly on the site. The three owners asked if it was possible, according to this franchise, to create this concept, and this concept was born. At that time, I was contacted, asked what I thought of the project. I said it was a really innovative project and that it can be really great, and I accepted the adventure, and that's why I'm here. Indeed, we started in March together. Nothing was done at all. We had to create everything from A to Z, both in terms of pastry, cooking, location. We really reworked and redone everything here. You can imagine that in times of COVID, it was really not easy. And in particular, creating a menu, knowing that we didn't know if we were going to have the material, it was terrible. It was really terrible because I was like, if it happens, we'll put it in the place, and then when we get there, we won't be able to do it. We may not even be able to open when we want, etc. So indeed, it was really complicated, but we took up the challenge and we are ready to welcome you. It's always said that when there is a misfortune or a crisis, this is where emergencies begin. I think that maybe it even helps in bringing something completely French to an emerging country like Georgia. At the beginning it was perhaps not a one-bet, but thanks to COVID, people were able to travel without taking a plane. They came here and they tasted French products. They were delighted because, indeed, they did not need to travel. And without the COVID, maybe they would have left and they wouldn't have come here to taste our staples. As far as cooking is concerned, the young people I hired are young people who are trained most of the time according to their CVs and what I had clarified, and that it was necessary that they have worked a minimum in French establishments. To name just few, these are people who worked at Paul, La Durée, etc. And so they still have an approach to the European world and European cuisine. Now, thanks to Instagram and social networks, I think that young people form themselves and they have a will that I have rarely encountered in France. And that is real bonus. There is also another thing, that we are lucky to have truly exceptional products in Georgia. And of these products, we do not need to add too much to bring a dish à la française, but revisit it with Georgian products. This allows to have a valuation of the product without denaturing it, and that is what I look for in my cuisine.
Et c'est ce que je recherche dans ma cuisine.
Those two projects created during COVID time are the perfect example that everything is possible. Despite of all the difficulties they both have been facing on a daily basis, they finally succeeded to implement on the Georgian market new brands and concepts. An example to be followed even across the borders of Georgia.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.